Mr. B in that old trophy case. Number 4 still waiting for, well, bring on the chase. Out on the field at Mile High, Broncos win is our desire. Coupled with a break, brew and a friend, bleed orange and blue to the bitter end. Come and join us, DNVR. We are DNVR.
We are DNVR. We are live from the DNVR Bar here in Studio A, where the A today stands for as good as they seem? Question mark. Big wide receiver market exploding right now. Broncos a little bit ahead of that curve, but I want to talk about these deals with you guys here in just a second. Mace, how are you doing today?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm doing great. Zach?
Got the whole crew back. I'm doing great.
I feel great as well. Of course, we're presented by MSU Denver Online, msudenver.edu/online, where you can check out all they have to offer. Make sure you head on down to the website, see all the different programs, what could work for you. And the best news is if you're working a full-time job and you can't give that up to go to school, MSU Denver students work twice as many hours as students attending any other Colorado institution. So go to msudenver.edu/online today.
My boys, so happy to have the three of us back together. And over the past couple days, we've had a lot of people tuning in live, which is awesome. But a lot of you tuning in on Twitter. Hop over to YouTube. Hit us with a thumbs up once you're over on YouTube. Smash that subscribe button. Turn on alerts. We would really appreciate that because we want to continue to grow our family. And we love the comment section when it's popping. That's what we see when we're doing this live pod is we see all the comments coming in from YouTube. So make sure to chime in on the YouTube side of things.
Like I said last week, if you're watching on Twitter, it's basically like you're standing outside the bar looking through the windows. If you're watching on YouTube, you're in the bar. You're having beers with us. You're chatting with us at the bar top.
This is the time to be inside the DNVR bar, too, with playoffs coming up. I can't freaking wait for this place to be packed night in and night out.
What's crazy is, like, every event this year in here has been bigger than any event last year. So, like, the Super Bowl all of a sudden was way more packed than it was. March Madness was way more packed. We can't get any more packed.
No. How can you get more packed than shoulder to shoulder standing room only?
Yeah,
not even room with the standing.
We might just have to let people up here.
Yeah, seriously.
But, okay, so let's at least frame why we're having this conversation. And I guess for that, we'll go to Zach in sports.
Well, yesterday, another massive wide receiver contract. Stephon Diggs gets loaded up with a deal paying him nearly $25 million a season. This is one of 4 big deals that we've seen from the wide receiver position this year. And, of course, Courtland Sutton and Tim Patrick got their deals just a couple of months before all of this exploded. So, Ryan, what does it mean?
It's time to build the statue, or is it, Zach? Mace, I guess I want your take on this originally because I'm going to give my take, which might be the less popular one.
Wow.
So I'll let you lead off here. How good are these deals for Tim Patrick and Courtland Sutton?
Well, they don't last onerously long. One is 4 years. One is Tim Patrick's just 3 years. Effectively, you're getting the two of them for $53.5 million combined, and then in terms of guarantees, and then you compare that to, for example, the Devontae Adams guarantee is 65, the Tyreek Hill guarantee is 72, even, for example, the DeAndre Hopkins guarantee a while back was 49.4, the Keenan Allen guarantee was 50. So effectively, you're getting two for less than the price of one elite receiver.
And that is where my issue lies, is everyone keeps saying the Broncos got Courtland Sutton and Tim Patrick for the price of Tyreek Hill. And I'm sitting there thinking, that's not a great... You'd rather have Tyreek Hill. Everyone would rather have Tyreek Hill. Aside from, okay, I'll use a different... Everyone would rather have Devontae Adams. Everyone would rather have, So here we go. No, to compare that really quick. These are the 4 guys that are making more than Courtland Sutton and Tim Patrick combined. Tell me if you'd rather have these guys or Courtland Sutton and Tim Patrick. Stephon Diggs. Yes.
You'd rather have Stephon.
Yes.
By
the way, it's not like you don't get a second receiver.
Right.
You just have a lower,
Yeah,
maybe a lower level. So.
DeAndre Hopkins. Oh, I'd
this
rather
isn't
have,
2 years
I'd rather
ago,
have
though.
Hop.
I know. He seems like he's declining for me. It's close.
Okay, Devontae Adams.
Definitely want Devontae
And
Adams.
then Tyreek Hill.
And you definitely want Tyreek Hill.
Yes.
So
and I do agree with you on this point.
that is my only issue. It has nothing to do with the contracts. It has to do with the way people are framing it, as if it's some amazing thing that you got 2 for the price of 1. But as we always know, in most cases, unless you're talking about Christian Kirk, you get what you pay for. So that's where I just go, okay, let's not act like these guys are anything like those guys. They're not elite receivers. They are very good receivers who could blow up with Russell Wilson. And that's where those deals are going to look really, really good, is if Tim Patrick or Courtland Sutton goes over 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns and goes to the Pro Bowl this year, then we're really going to be saying these are great contracts. But I saw Chill Ducey on Twitter yesterday. He's like saying that you're getting Tim Patrick for less than Tyreek Hill is like saying, like, celebrating that you got Will Barton for so much less than Donovan Mitchell. Like,
Right.
it's a nice piece. It's a really good player, and you got a really good deal on the contract. So no, I have no issues with any of that. My only issue is saying, like, look how good these deals are compared to what the best players in the league are getting paid. It's like, that doesn't make sense.
Right, and I do agree with you there. The way I view it and where I disagree with you a little bit and do give credit to the Broncos is, what would Courtland Sutton have got on the open market, and what would Tim Patrick have got on the open market this offseason if the Broncos said, like they did with Kareem Jackson, Melvin Gordon, we think your value's a little too high. We're going to go let you test the free agent market, and then once you find out your value isn't good enough, then you'll come back to us for cheaper. If he would have done that, I think these guys would have been gone.
Long gone for way more. Again,
Right.
I have no issues with the contracts. The contracts are actually an amazing deal. And again, I don't know if George Payton knew he was getting Russell Wilson or he was just confident that he was going to have a quarterback, but their value is going to absolutely skyrocket with this guy.
I think it was about attracting the quarterback too.
That could have been too.
And if that's the case, then it's money well spent.
Actually, I remember that first podcast we did after those deals. I came on and said, "This tells me that George Payton is setting up for his next quarterback. He's very confident that they're going to get it." And so that's where this is going to be really awesome, is when you get to say, look at Courtland Sutton's stats compared to DeAndre Hopkins' stats.
Right.
They're pretty close,
Yep.
and Courtland Sutton is getting paid way, way less.
Yep, exactly. And what typically when you pay someone, you're paying them for that contract to look pretty good year 2 and 3 of that deal. Typically when you pay someone, you're making them the highest paid player, the top 5 highest paid player in that position. You're saying, he's really like the 15th best player at the position, but you had to make him a top 5 paid guy at first. And then over the next couple of years, those markets kind of correct themselves. And that did not happen with Courtland Sutton and Tim Patrick in a good way for the Broncos. Courtland Sutton right now, the 20th highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. Tim Patrick, the 25th highest wide receiver in the NFL. So you can actually look at that 2 ways. The first way is, like I said, in 2 or 3 years, these guys' deals are probably going to be the 40th highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. So that's going to look incredible then. Although right now you look at it and say, is Tim Patrick really even the number 2 receiver on this team? And they're paying kind of the number 2, number 3 receiver as number 1 money since he's the 25th highest paid receiver. So you can look at it both ways there and criticize or give him credit. I think at the end, when we're looking at this in 2 years, these deals are going to be so cheap.
He is the number 2 receiver until proven otherwise. And it's up to Jerry Jeudy to prove that. I mean,
Yes.
Yes, there are reasons. Yes, he's dealt with injuries. Yes, there have been quarterback issues. But not every wide receiver who has been more productive from that 2020 class than Jerry Jeudy, has had great quarterback position play.
Who did I just see? Oh, it was a Packers guy who said Packers could be adding a receiver, not one that you think is available. And you know where my mind went.
Yeah, JJ.
But, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
these deals are going to look like, I mean, you're going to want to build the statue for George Payton when all is said and done. And it's not as if going back to my gripe with this whole thing, it's not as if he had the option. It's not someone came in front of him and said, hey, do you want Devontae Adams or Courtland Sutton and Tim Patrick? Like, no, he knew what his best option was. He got ahead of it, got an amazing deal on these guys, and then went and got something that improved his investment so much. It's like, I don't know, he went and he like bought a nice house, and then he went and got an incredible, he like built a pool and, all sorts of different things to make that investment even better and more valuable. Although Russell Wilson's probably the house, and Tim and Courtland are probably the pool and the white picket fence. But you get what I'm saying. So he absolutely nailed it. And the Jerry Jeudy thing, though, is kind of what I was talking about in the other side of this, which is like, so you have Tyreek Hill, right? And that's really, really expensive. And then you have Jalen Waddle, who's really, really good and really, really cheap, at least comparatively in this conversation. So they have it really figured out over there. You have Stephon Diggs, and then you just kind of have some pieces around him. But you know what? When you have Josh Allen, is it Gabriel Davis?
Yep.
Gabriel Davis looks dope.
3 touchdowns in that final playoff game.
Yeah, so there's different ways of kind of going about this. The way the Broncos are doing it is very similar to the way they did it with Peyton Manning. They were paying Demaryius, they were paying Emmanuel. Before that, they were paying Wes Welker and Eric Decker. I guess they didn't pay. Decker just did his rookie contract?
Yeah, because and part of it was they were in a bit of a crunch, and that was the off season that they said we have to upgrade the defense. So they spent on Aqib Talib, DeMarcus Ware, and T.J. Ward. And so Emmanuel Sanders came in because he was cheaper than Eric Decker. Eric Decker was wide receiver 2 and got wide receiver 1 money from the Jets. Emmanuel Sanders hadn't been anything more than a wide receiver 3. And that's why they got him at, I think it was about $5 million a year, which looks so quaint 8 years later.
But that kind of goes to my point, which is Eric Decker wasn't a number 1 wide receiver. He was a Peyton Manning product. Emmanuel Sanders wasn't a number 3 wide receiver. He was, first of all, behind 2 guys who were really good, and also, wasn't given the type of offense that he had when he comes to Denver and he gets to be the number 2 and Peyton Manning's throwing him the ball. So
he did have a Hall of Fame quarterback, though, in Pittsburgh.
He did.
As Emmanuel reminded everyone, Peyton's better than Ben.
Yes.
And no one disagreed.
Actually,
I think Ben took a little offense.
Has any receiver ever worked with more great quarterbacks in an era than Emmanuel Sanders? Think about
Drew Brees, Josh Allen, Peyton Manning,
Ben Roethlisberger.
Pretty darn good.
Jeez, he had it figured out. He knew his position was dependent.
So he's smart about it. So who's he missing? He's missing Tom. Is there anyone that has worked? Oh, Wes Welker has worked with Tom and Peyton.
Yes.
That's hard to beat.
Is that his only 2?
The only 2 that have
No, because remember earlier in his career, he started with Miami.
Chad Pennington?
So I think
Henne?
he missed Pennington. He missed Henne was a little bit after, but I think Welker may have gotten I think he may have gotten a little briefly like a Dante Culpepper going down there.
That's that.
Yes, yeah, primarily, but he was getting some spot offensive work.
Crazy.
These receivers are smart. You just go where the good quarterback is. Maybe you take a little bit of a pay cut, but it's going to pay out.
And on that note, again, if the Broncos were in an alternate universe to have gotten Devontae Adams, they easily could have filled whatever role they needed to fill, whether it's through the draft or through the Emmanuel Sanders of this class, whoever that may be.
Yep.
Although, you might look at Christian Kirk as a guy who's not a top option on his team and really talented.
Yeah.
And you definitely didn't get any sort of bargain there.
You didn't. You absolutely didn't. And that brings up the conversation of what would these guys have got on the open market if they were free agents, because we're not just talking about big names like the Tyreek Hills of the world that got paid this offseason. You had Devontae Adams getting paid. You got Stephon Diggs getting paid. But you also had Christian Kirk getting that massive deal that blew everyone's eyeballs out of their sockets. He got $18 million a year average with the opportunity for it to be up to like $21 or $22 million per year. And when I say the name Christian Kirk, Courtland Sutton's got to be in that conversation, right? Like, we got to think that the Jaguars would have been willing to pay Courtland that type of money as well, if not even more, right?
Yeah, and that's what I mean. The Christian Kirk thing just makes no sense. It's hard to even use it as a barometer for anything because I cannot figure out the reason unless they have some sort of formula that was like who is the perfect receiver to pair with Trevor Lawrence, and they like created some system and it spit out Christian Kirk, and they were like, get Christian Kirk no matter what.
Right. They had it written down on a sticky note.
Other than that, I have no idea what they were doing. But Courtland Sutton is better than Christian Kirk.
So I guess here would be their argument is last year Courtland played in all 17 games, and Courtland had 58 catches for 776 yards. You had Christian Kirk play in all 17 games, 77 catches for 982 yards. So they would say he has 20 catches more and 200 yards more.
This sounds like some sort of like Sixers MVP argument, though.
I'm not trying to make this argument.
Because it's like, okay, well, now let's look like one layer further.
Right.
Who was the quarterback? What was the offense?
Right. And if you wanted to look one layer further, you could say, okay, what did Christian Kirk do when Kyler Murray was benched? I don't know those stats off the top of my head. But yes, and that's how they convinced themselves, because Christian Kirk, they probably said, you want $14 million? He said, oh, no, I'm a $25 million guy. And they said, whoa, well, how do we convince ourselves that you're a $21 million guy?
No 1,000-yard seasons, right?
I believe not, yes. And Courtland does have that.
There's
on his
actually
record.
like no way this works out for them.
No, it seems like just a classic Jacksonville Jaguars move.
Give his agent half of it.
Yes. And yes, you're right. No 1,000-yard seasons for him. Last year was the best season he's ever had by far.
Wow.
With 982 yards. So, Courtland, Mace, do you think he would have got that deal on the open market?
Yeah, I think he would have.
And that's probably about a side. DJ Moore is getting $20.6 million. Courtland probably
He's
right
actually
in
really
that.
good.
Do you think Courtland would be up there, though?
Yeah, I mean, Courtland has he's a name brand wide receiver in the NFL. I don't think he's quite gotten to, what some of the levels that we talked about with those other guys, but he's made a Pro Bowl. He's had a 1,000-yard season.
So what we're talking about is Courtland not getting in that top tier of free agents, the Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, Stephon Diggs, where they're $26 million plus. Next tier right after that is DJ Moore at 20.6. So we're talking about Courtland not being the highest paid wide receiver. We're talking about him getting to $20 million per year.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while since we talked about it, but you remember the old Sutton rule?
Yep, just throw it up.
Cross the 50, throw it up for him. Go watch Russell Wilson highlights if you haven't been doing that for like a month and a half like I have. Go watch Russell Wilson highlights and watch how many times he just gives his guys chances. Courtland Sutton is going to have more jump balls in the first half of this season than he's had in his whole career, because Russell Wilson, obviously DK Metcalf is a little bit of a different physical specimen from Courtland, but this is Courtland is his DK Metcalf in Denver, and I promise you, if there is single coverage on the outside and they are right around the 50-yard line, he is going to give him a chance multiple times in a game, and I think because of it, you could see Courtland put up crazy touchdown numbers. Like if he's going to go win those jump balls like we saw him do in his rookie season training camp, he's going to just rack up touchdowns.
Maybe you're talking about him averaging 20 yards a catch too. If they're going vertical to him like that, if they're doing it not just from the red zone, but if they're doing it from the 40, 45 from midfield, then he may not be the league leader in touchdown catches. He might be the league leader in 20+ touchdown catches.
Yep.
I think it's totally on the table. And then Tim, I think could go for 100 catches. Like legitimately. I think that depending on Jerry, because hopefully Jerry Jeudy comes and steals catches from everyone.
Yep.
Because
and you're talking about him being the 100-catch guy.
Yes, that's the way I always envisioned him in the NFL. We don't have to get into why it hasn't worked between injuries and quarterback and maybe some attitude as well. But if it doesn't work out, or if the thing that we've talked about happening happens, I think Tim is your third down guy. Like Russ is going to him in big situations all day long.
He's Mr. Reliable.
Exactly, and that's what he's been to this point. But they just haven't had a distributor like they do now. I hope that he doesn't, because I hope that means that Jerry Jeudy came in and he had 85 catches and, Courtland Sutton had 70 something. But I think there's definitely a world where he goes and just racks up catches this year, because that's where Russ, wants to go and throw it into traffic when there's a tight window.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And I want to know what Tim Patrick's value is. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at Light Shade Dispensary, where if you use the code DNVR, whether you're online or you're in person at one of their 11 stores, you get 25% off. They have Wana right now, which is a fast-acting that helps you fall asleep fast. It's 100 or 20 to 100 THC to CBD, and it will help you get a well-rounded night of sleep, as well as get you to sleep right away. And they just opened their biggest store. It's their Barnum location, 1 block off of 6th Avenue and Federal. It's their biggest location up to date. They have special products that aren't offered at other locations, and they've got a 420 sale going on from April 20th, 420, through the following week, where their 5 best-selling products will be buy one, get one for $1. So make sure to check them out and use that code DNVR over at any Light Shade Dispensary for 25% off.
Also, nice little pairing with that, some Breck brews. You can come down to the DNVR bar and get any of our 8 Breck brews that are on tap, or you can use the Breck brew locator to find the Breck brews nearest to you. We have some friends in from out of town right now, and one of the first things one of the girls said was, "What was that strawberry beer that I had last time?" I was like, yes.
Hook you up
Good old
with it.
strawberry sky.
And boy,
Nothing
it's that
like it.
weather.
I know, it's coming around. I spent the last few days in Phoenix, and let me tell you, they are fully into strawberry sky season out there. I can't wait for it. Obviously,
You got a nice little
baseball's
glow.
Yeah, thank you. Baseball, starting up today for some people and for us tomorrow. But that's like baseball and a strawberry sky. Whew. Nothing quite matches that. So check out Breck Brew and use that Breck Brew locator to find the nearest to you.
Sometimes there's a strawberry sky over Coors Field if you go at the right time.
Amen.
At sunset,
Yep.
the golden hour
Oh,
looks,
Coors Field sunset. Whew.
Oh,
Maybe as
man.
good as it gets in all of baseball.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll take a Folsom Field sunset just in all of sports, but Coors got to be up there too.
Well, and you get to catch it from the rooftop.
Yes.
And speaking of opening day tomorrow, we're going to be down at the Ice House having our opening day party, because opening day is all about Lodo, and we wanted to be where the people were going to be, and you guys want to hang out with us. So we're going to be at the Ice House starting around 11 tomorrow through opening day. It's going to be an absolute blast. This is the place you want to be. We're going to be there. Breck Brews are going to be there. It's going to be a party. So take off work tomorrow. Opening day should be a Colorado holiday anyways.
Kinda already is.
Yeah, so you probably have work off. If not, I think you're coming down with a little cold today. And go down to the Ice House and join us for an awesome party.
I always do wonder, because there's an insane amount of people that are in downtown. Did all of them call in sick?
Right.
Are employers all over Denver rolling their eyes because
Right.
they don't know what to do?
Unless it's the bosses that are calling sick, and then everyone knows, boss isn't here.
Because
so
I've
we can
never
leave.
heard anyone say "Oh yeah, my company gives us opening day off."
No, I have not heard that either.
Wow. That's a nice little
It
thing.
is.
So I just want to know how is just calling sick rate at a crazy all-time high on
personal
opening
day.
Yeah.
That is you could say, that's a personal day.
You could say I'm working from home, but home
Well-
as in just Denver.
The thing is, we're still not back to everybody working in person full time
Yep.
in terms of the traditional office environment. We're seeing, maybe 2 days a week. But if you kind of massage it right, I guess you can kind of take your chances and come on down for opening day. But the thing
Right.
is, opening day was besieged by people even before the pandemic.
Right.
I mean, actually, it's.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there are some people for whom, and I'll include myself in this, unless the Braves are playing the Rockies on opening day, I kind of steer clear. It's just kind of too much for me.
Right.
But
I understand.
I'm
that.
gonna go on Sunday, but
La-
I'm going instead of Friday.
Last time I
Yeah.
went to opening day against the Dodgers, it almost ended poorly. Me plus alcohol plus Dodgers fans. It's just really not a great mix.
I actually like the opening day. I think it was in 2018 when it was snow and about 25 degrees, and Atlanta was
yeah.
playing the Rockies. That really kept the riffraff down.
It did. It was also one of the worst baseball games I've ever been to, in terms of
freezing.
enjoyment.
Yeah.
you had to do it right. You got some hot chocolate.
Did that.
When I went for a cocktail, I got a double.
Smart.
That started me off warm. I had about 6 layers on. I had snow pants.
Bro, we
Yeah.
even got like
Yeah.
special insulated socks. And the funny thing is like,
Yeah.
so tickets went down to like $35 first
Right.
level.
Yeah.
Right the night before the game when everyone knew for sure the weather was going to suck.
Right.
So I was telling Allie, I'm like, we should go. Like, I'll buy the tickets. I'm like, how many times have we been to a football game where it was freezing and it was fine? It'll be just like that. It's not just like that at all.
It's not because football kind of lends itself to
Jumping
being
up
on your
and
feet,
down,
jumping
yes.
up and down. Baseball, you're sitting there and you're watching the game.
And it was so cold, like I didn't even want to go to the rooftop because it's like,
Right.
Yeah.
I don't even. First of all, I don't want to move.
Yep.
Second of all, like I don't want to hold a drink.
And what are we talking about tomorrow? 77 and sunny.
Is it?
Yep.
Oh,
I think so.
That's amazing.
Or
Yeah.
maybe it's high 60s or something. It's going to be great.
Whatever it is, it's going to be.
But
it's
I
gonna
love
be nice
that.
all
I
weekend.
love that we're bringing the party to Lodo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I get it. Like if I was going to the game, it would have been tough to come stop here.
Mm-hmm.
Then get down there. Like it's a Lodo holiday, so we're leaning into it. We're going to Lodo too.
Yep. It's going to be awesome.
Who are the worst fans to have in, by the way? I'd say Dodger fans are slightly worse for opening day. But I'll tell you what, like if it's a Cubs
That would
if the
suck.
Cubs are in for opening day, that's where like there should be the same warning on a Cubs Rockies opening day that there is if you're in like at SeaWorld and you're in the first 3 rows. Where they
Splash
say
zone?
splash zone. If it's a Cubs Rockies, the entire stadium is a splash zone. You will get beer on you, like it or not.
You know what I will say though is Rockies fans, they show out on opening day. So
Oh, yes,
if there's
they
one
do.
game that we can keep the
Yeah.
keep the opposing fans out,
Yeah.
it's that one.
Exactly.
All right, where were we in our conversation?
Tim Patrick, what is his value on the open market? Because he got just over $11 million per year on his deal. And kind of looking around, I think his value is kind of right where Courtland Sutton is, $15 million a year. Let me list the guys that are right around there. Allen Robinson.
Is that 15?
He's at 15 and a half.
Okay.
And Allen Robinson, Tim Patrick had more yards than him last year.
Wow.
Courtland Sutton, he's also at 15.2. Tim Patrick had more yards than Courtland Sutton
The
last
Bears
year.
were like throwing like 13 times a game sometimes.
Yeah. So, that is something you take into account. Now, Robbie Anderson, he's at 14.7 million.
Yeah.
Tim's probably right around there. Corey
Yep.
Davis, 12.5.
Okay.
So I think, and then we get right into Tim's area.
This is like, speaking of the Rockies, I used to always, it took me a lot of years to realize this, which is like prospect comes up, gets hyped in the organization, everyone really likes him, and they do some nice things, so you're like, we were right. And then you look down and you're like, oh, he's hitting 235
Right.
and he has like 13 home runs and there's only 20 games left. Like he's not as good as we thought. I'm not saying that's what's happening with Tim, but that's what I fear we might do is overvalue him a little bit. And then when you start looking at the numbers, like you said, then you start realizing I think it's actually the opposite. What happened here is George Payton knew that he still has a lot of unlocked potential. And again, like I was just saying, he could go absolutely ballistic with Russell Wilson this year. And so this one, I think you're right. He is that caliber, and you're getting a serious discount here. 1, because of his undrafted status. 2, because it took him a long time to stick in the league. And 3, because he has not played with a great quarterback yet.
Yeah, and when I look at Tim, I say, why is he $4 million a year cheaper than Courtland Sutton? Courtland Sutton has a Pro Bowl next to his name, but Courtland Sutton's best year is only 100 yards more than Tim Patrick's best year. So I really think it is what you were talking about, but maybe the opposite. That Courtland Sutton's a second-round project that everyone likes. George Payton, when he got in the building last year, he loved Courtland Sutton. His son was talking about Courtland Sutton. George, before Courtland Sutton, even played a healthy snap on the practice field, was in love with Courtland Sutton. And the Broncos also love Courtland Sutton. And so I think they just fell in love with everything about him. But you talk about throwing the jump ball up to Courtland Sutton. You can do that to Tim as well.
Yep.
And Courtland's just viewed as like the more physical freak.
Which I think he is.
Tim probably, what's Tim more limited at? Maybe a little slower?
Jumping.
He's taller.
I know. He is taller.
But he doesn't have the
Probably
same
has
verti-
the same radius, though.
Same radius, but maybe not the same vertical.
But
And also
does
the
the
same-
vertical
it doesn't have the
matter
same
if
vo-
you have the same radius?
Well, It does, and it also he doesn't.
How?
He doesn't have the same body control either.
I don't think he has the same radius. Is my answer.
That's the other thing. Yeah, and the other doesn't have the same body control either. And the other thing, I mean, we're not. It's not just 100 yards is the difference. It's about 400 yards, just under 400 yards is the difference between Tim Patrick's best season, because his best seasons are in the 700s, and Courtland Sutton was north of 1,100 yards. There's a pretty big difference between the two in terms of their ceiling.
That's true. I got confused. I thought he had 900.
Yeah, and that's what you're paying for. You're paying for, I think, the ceiling and what you hope he can be.
Well, and I just think we talk about this all the time. Your draft status follows you forever.
It does. It does.
But there's a reason why those two have different draft statuses. It is because Courtland Sutton, slightly more athletic, a little bouncier, definitely a little stronger, and has shown that Pro Bowl caliber ceiling, or if you even want to call it a ceiling, Pro Bowl caliber play. He's showed it on the field
in a year where he had Joe Flacco, Brandon Allen, and Drew Lock as his quarterbacks.
Where Tim has Courtland, better hands. He's actually a little faster, and he's a little taller. So we just haven't seen it yet. He honestly hasn't been given the opportunity to be a number one, but
he hasn't been given the opportunity to really be a number two.
Right. And so I think, again, there is a chance. Don't forget, every time Russell Wilson talks about his receivers, he says Tim Patrick's name first.
That's why I don't think it's this crazy idea that Tim should be paid similar to Courtland.
Yep.
I don't think it's crazy.
Tim's really underrated from a speed perspective. Really underrated because he doesn't look like a speed receiver.
Right.
But I think maybe someone can look this up. His 40 time for his size is insane. I think he was in the 4.4s for being 6'5".
Yeah, it's insane.
So, again, another thing that just has not been unlocked yet. You saw him catch the 9 against the Cowboys. He had an awesome catch there, but you have not seen him running a lot of vertical routes.
No, and that's something that when we talk about the difference between Courtland and Tim, Courtland is really good at the jump balls. I haven't seen anything that would show me that Tim isn't just as good. I don't remember any times when Tim goes up for a ball and isn't able to come down with it.
You know what else he has?
What?
He's a dog.
He is. He is.
Straight up. He goes out there and he talks his talk and he competes and he has just a thing about him where he just wants to go hit you in the mouth, whether literally or figuratively.
Right.
And that plays, that tracks. Like
it does.
It's something that you need on your team. And it's why I just love this. And if Jerry, it kind of, all roads kind of lead back to Jerry Jeudy. If Jerry goes out there and is the guy that we thought he was, we're talking about very possibly the best three player receiver core in the NFL. I think it's very possible. Now, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and insert whoever is going to be pretty hard to beat. But
Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow, and probably Brian Edwards have a lot to say about that too.
Yeah,
in Vegas.
Right, and I mean, if you just say best weapons, then you get to bring in Darren Waller for them, and that makes them really hard to. But
in terms of money, the Chargers are right there with Mike Evans and Keenan Allen. Those are the two highest paid duos.
Or
Mike Williams. Yes.
Yeah, I mean.
Oh, I agree with that. In terms of money, that's why I said that.
So
$40 million a year.
Which one is overrated, Williams or Allen, or both?
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think both as
Keenan,
well.
I gotta disagree with that on Keenan Allen. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's overrated.
He's slightly overrated, but he's still very, very good. But I'm not saying they're going to be number one. I'm just saying, that's going to be incredibly hard to defend. And then, obviously, you talk about Alberto, and every time we do this, someone in the comments, I saw it earlier, says, don't forget about KJ Hamler. I just am. I don't know I am forgetting about KJ Hamler until he makes me not forget about him.
We're not counting on him.
Yeah.
Nice bonus if he's there, but I believe he's missed more games than he's played so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate that. I love KJ. He's got a great personality, super awesome skill set. He's the fastest player on the team.
Chase T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd.
I think
That's
I think all of these are in the conversation.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great conversation.
Actually,
one that you absolutely want to be a part of.
Would you take T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Tyler Boyd over the Broncos' big three?
Can I tell you after this year?
Well, Jamar Chase
today.
is obvious. Jamar Chase is the number one among all of those.
Because I put
Yeah.
Jamar Chase in the conversation we were having earlier. Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
That world.
But T. Higgins is and Tyler Boyd are both really good at capitalizing when defenses are shading over toward Jamar Chase.
This is what's so exciting.
I would take the Bengals 3 today.
The
over
Broncos this
3.
year, for the first time in God knows how long, are going to be able to force teams to do things like that. If you're going to be able to force teams to put a lot of focus on Courtland Sutton, and all of a sudden Jerry Jeudy is running wild in the middle of the field if Russell Wilson decides to ever throw it there. Tim Patrick is going to have such great matchups, and the Broncos are going to be able to exploit this. They just haven't been able to do it with these quarterbacks year after year after year. That was, I remember when we had that conversation with a member of the Broncos organization about Joe Flacco, and he was saying all the things that Joe Flacco could do and how that was going to unlock the offense. None of that happened, but those are the things that are actually going to happen with Russell Wilson. He can make every throw. All parts of the field you have to cover, you have to defend, you have to have a plan for. And so, like you said, when teams want to take away Jamar Chase, that makes Joe Burrow's life so much easier. And he has 2 guys that he can throw to. And that's exactly what's going to happen in Denver with Russell Wilson.
So then who is the Broncos' best opportunity to have a dominant number 1 receiver in the NFL? And I'm talking to join those group of 5 wide receivers. Who is it?
It's Jerry Jeudy, in my opinion.
I think it is as well. Now, I think from things we've learned, that may be not as much of a guarantee as we hoped it would be when they drafted him in the first round, 15th overall, when we thought he was the best wide receiver in a generational receiver class. It seems like that's not as automatic anymore, but I still do think it's Jerry Jeudy. And we've talked all day about how good Courtland and Tim are and how good they can be. And they really may be the number 2 and the number 3 receivers on this team if Jerry Jeudy's able to unlock his potential.
It's a tough comp just because Aqib kept his play really high. But Aqib Talib was much more beloved in the locker room and around town when the Broncos were good. And when they got bad, he was, there was there's all sorts of conversations that happen and those sort of things. Emmanuel Sanders, there's your better comp. Emmanuel Sanders, when things were going great, everyone loved Emmanuel. When things started to go bad, you heard of rumors of, complaining and temper tantrums at halftime and that sort of stuff. And so we haven't seen Jerry when things are good yet. And I hope that while it's not a great quality to have where, you kind of go where the wind blows, the wind should be blowing in the right direction for a long time now. Mm-hmm. And if we get Peyton Emmanuel with Russell Jerry, then things are going to be really, really good, and he's going to be really, really awesome, and all of a sudden he's going to be smiling all the time and happy and, not sending cryptic tweets that everyone has to diagnose. And that is where that world comes into play.
He never lost before he got here. Really. That's the thing.
It's got to be tough.
Yeah.
He also never had to live where it was cold. All of a sudden you go from winning, warm weather, everything's great, to losing and being freezing. I'd probably be pissed too.
And as we know, when it's cold, it's tough. It's tough. So, guys, final question. Do you think with this conversation being said about how Courtland they both could have gotten nearly $5 million more on the open market, they haven't even played a snap on their new deal, and they've already restructured to help the Broncos open up some things. Do you think that they are asking for new deals sooner than they would have? Because, every player asks for a new deal before their other deal's up. So instead of waiting till year 3 on Tim's contract and year 4 right before the final year of their deals, are they waiting? Is Tim Patrick asking for a new deal 1 year from now? And is Courtland Sutton asking for a new deal 2 years from now?
I think both are asking for a new deal 2 years from now. Back-to-back Pro Bowls, playoff stuff.
And that's the year of the cap bump, too.
Yeah.
That's the year the cap's supposed to go to about $260 million, as most project.
That is big-time decision time, because you're also going to have Jerry coming up. And
he's going to need a new deal, too.
And you're not going to pay them all at that time $30 million, or at that time $40 million, since Tyreek is already at the $30 million mark. hope, I guess, that some natural separation occurs, but you got to imagine that one of these guys is going to be gone.
That's the beauty of how they structured the contracts, though, because we're talking about them having 3 and 4 year deals, but in terms of how they're spreading it out and the dead money hit, especially effectively they're 2 and 3 year deals. And so in the third year for each of them, that is when Jerry Jeudy would have the 5th year option. So that's his first price bump. And then the 4th year for Sutton, after Jerry Judy's past his 5th year option, or the 4th, that's also after Tim Patrick's contract has expired.
Yeah.
So they plan this almost with the intention of passing the baton to Jerry Jeudy if he proves worthy of it, and him getting the big number starting in 25.
Yep. I mean, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how this works, and you're going to see a lot of fans be not like the player empowerment era anymore.
Yes.
It's really easy to be very for the player empowerment era when your team isn't very good and it doesn't really affect whether you're competing for a Super Bowl or not. But this is the thing. Players can walk in and say, I'm not coming until you give me a new deal. The team can say, we don't want to give you a new deal, and then your favorite player just got traded.
I mean, how quickly did that happen with the Chiefs?
Right.
Now, behind closed doors, it was happening for about 10 days before. But still, that's not very long for Tyreek Hill to go from a star that you're building your team around next to Patrick Mahomes to gone.
And the truth is, someone will pay.
Yep.
There's always someone who will pay. So the players do have a lot of power, and I'm happy for them in that. It just creates complications when you're trying to build a Super Bowl winner.
And boy, this is just another great example of why you sign guys before they hit the open market. We've talked about it for so long. John Elway would wait a long time to sign guys, and then they would just be too expensive, and then you'd walk into the Chris Harris Jr. deals where he's really upset. If you take care of it before, if you know that it's a guy that you want to have for a long time, there's zero reason to wait. And now Bradley Chubb, that's going to be a conversation for a different day, obviously, but we're not sure that he's a guy that you want here no matter what. And then that's when you get into some interesting territory on how to handle those situations.
And if you can get one of the edges, if they fall to pick 64 and you open your draft with an edge, I mean, obviously it's not like a high first rounder, but that's somebody where you evaluate where he is at the end of the season and say, okay, is he ready to start? Can we move on from Chubb if Chubb has not found a way to stay healthy?
Yeah. I'll say it now. Ojabo is the dream. I don't think he's going to drop that far. But you never know with these types of injuries right before the draft. You're kind of in a position where you can have a guy who has to redshirt his first year.
You really are. And
now you'd like, because you're in a Super Bowl window now, you'd like to add an instant contributor. But if you're going to increase the chances of that Super Bowl window a year from now, you can talk yourself into it.
Here's the thing, though. I mean, the Broncos are essentially picking in the 3rd round with their first pick. Last year, 2 very good players in Baron Browning and Quinn Meinerz, not instant contributors, not guys that you were counting on. So if George Paton views it that way, man, if Ojabo's there, that would be absolutely amazing.
And really good teams don't need instant contributors in the 3rd round.
And the Broncos don't need instant contributors. One thing George Paton's done a fantastic job at so far is plugging every hole where you feel comfortable enough going into the season. I don't feel great about right tackle. I don't feel great about defensive line. There's certainly positions I don't feel great about, but you feel okay going into the season. There's not a glaring need that you have to address in this draft.
Even great teams have some starters who are just rank and file, right?
Right.
You can go down the list. It's okay to have Billy Turner starting on a 1-year deal. That's fine.
Totally.
I mean, you don't want too many guys who are rank and file. You want some blue chippers around, but you're fine at right tackle. You're knocking on wood and hoping for health, but at edge rusher, but you're fine there. You're fine at inside linebacker. You're fine on the defensive line right now.
Yeah, and what that does is that it gives you an opportunity to take the best player available and play them in advantageous positions for them rather than advantageous positions for you. So, you don't have to move guys around like a DeMarcus Walker or whatever. You get to draft a guy and just say, hey, you're really good at this right now. We're going to play you when you do that. Now, we want you to learn all this other stuff, but let's just say you're, you're a pass rush specialist. Cool. We need you to learn to defend the run. But right now we're just going to play you on third downs.
Right. Yep, exactly. And you'll be just fine if you check out our friends over at Green Mountain Dental, because so many of us have checked them out and given them our stamp of approval. They're part of the DNVR family. We're part of the Green Mountain Dental family, and you should become part of their family as well, because if you sign up and schedule a cleaning, x-ray, and exam, you'll get a free Sonicare toothbrush over at Green Mountain Dental. That's all you have to do. Schedule a cleaning, x-ray, and exam. Go to our friends at Green Mountain Dental, and you'll get a free Sonicare toothbrush. No better way to take care of your teeth with that. And they're diehard Denver sports fans, so it's going to be, you can have some good conversations, easy people to hang out with. And it's only a 15-minute drive from downtown Denver. So check them out over at Green Mountain Dental.
Speaking of good conversations, let's have some good conversations with our listeners. And jump into Super Chats first. No Super Chats.
Yes, one from yesterday, actually, that came in from Mile High Mike. Came in at just the buzzer, so we missed it. We really appreciate it, Mile High Mike. We wanted to get to it today. And he said, yesterday we didn't have any Super Chats either, so he said, no Super Chats? Can't let that happen. Go DNVR. Let's ride, Mile High Mike. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, that's a DNVR Madden League OG right there.
It is. He is.
And if he says that we can't let no Super Chats happen, then, you guys
got to make sure it doesn't happen. Yes.
All right, then let's just jump into the questions on the website. Let's see what the people there have to say. Of course, you can get your questions in on the website every single day by becoming a member at thednvr.com. And that's not the only thing you get. You also get to read all of our great content, whether it's Zach, Mace, whether it's Harrison on the Nuggets, or AJ and Rudo and all the guys on all the teams. We've got every team covered top to bottom. Become a member over there. And then you also get larger beers at the DNVR bar. You get to come in with your friends, and then you go get beers, and you come back with the biggest one, and they're like, what's up with that? And you're like, oh, sorry, members only.
I've gotten in here.
Yeah,
Don't
exactly.
worry about
I know
it.
a guy.
You know a whole family here.
Exactly. All right, what are people saying today?
First one coming in from Dan Burke says, hey guys, so the Broncos are meeting with a bunch of prospects that project to be day 3 guys. In particular, there are a lot of interior offensive linemen of late. I saw some people theorizing that the Broncos meeting with a bunch of later round guys could mean they're planning on trading up in the draft and expecting only to have day 3 picks at their disposal. And maybe an interior offensive lineman could be part of a trade package up, whether that's Cushenberry, Glasgow, Reisner, or Muti, whoever the surplus would be. I know we shouldn't read too much into pre-draft visits, and especially not with Peyton at GM, but what do y'all think?
Take your own advice from the last sentence.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
These things are something that you should not read into much. I used to track every single one of these down and make sure I had it as well, and it's not important. George Payton told us last year that these things could mean something, they could mean nothing, and last year they literally meant nothing.
The biggest problem is calling them top 30 visits.
They're not your top 30 players. Yeah, some of these guys are actually unlikely to be drafted.
Yep.
I think those are the ones that are actually the ones to look into, because effectively they can kind of turn into recruiting visits.
Right.
When you get to the frenzy right after the draft of getting undrafted players, and the Broncos will certainly add some guys in the undrafted pool, I think those are the ones that are intriguing, because you're kind of getting a head start on if they pass through the draft process, then you've already got a little bit of an in with that.
I love that because it's kind of weird when, you're some kid from South Carolina, you've never been to Denver before. All of a sudden, you're every team, or like 6 teams in the NFL are calling you. You have no idea. You have nothing to base your decision off of other than you look. You go to ESPN.com and look at the depth chart, and you're like, do they have room at edge rusher? Can I crack my way in here? Whereas if you went to the facility and you met the coaches and you met the GM and you saw how beautiful the city is, and they told you, hey, we like you day 3 or after that, keep an eye out for us. There is room here. Then you already have this wealth of knowledge.
And there's one in particular, the Jared Bernhardt, who is a quarterback from Ferris State Division II, but he's converting to receiver and returner. Don't expect him to get drafted. I think that was a little bit of a recruiting visit.
Love that.
To bring to kind of get the bug in his ear about how they might use him if they bring him in.
And think of it this way, you don't bring these guys in because you absolutely love them. You bring them in because you have questions that you want answered in person, So, of course, maybe you bring in a guy that, some teams might do it a way where, like, if they're picking in the top 5, they want to bring in guys that they could pick there because they want to meet them and talk to them and, just see how they fit in and how they are in real life rather than the, 15 minutes you get at the combine or whatever.
Carolina's bringing in all 6 quarterbacks.
Right.
Yeah, for example.
And I get that. I would like that, too, if the Broncos were in the quarterback market, something I simply cannot relate to. But
how quickly we forget.
but, you bring guys in that you have questions about, whether it's, okay, there's a character concern here, or there is a health concern here, or whatever. You want to get them in your building to be able to actually find out for yourself rather than just go what you're reading off of reports.
Right, exactly. And so it makes sense to do these, but also you bring a guy in, you could find out, oh boy, this is not the guy I want. And cross them off your list. It's not. These aren't stamp of approvals just because you do them.
That being said, would not be surprised if the Broncos trade back and 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 just stock up for next year. I love that Eagles trade. I wasn't on here when that happened. I thought that was genius.
Yep.
Yeah.
You just load up for next year.
That's exactly what we said.
And Peyton even wants to get to his magic number of 10 picks for this year. So I think it'd be a combination of get a few more picks for day 3, something that that was in the original comment, and also build up for next year. I think right now they have 5 draft picks next year. I believe they would like to exit this year's draft with 7 picks for next year.
Right, and what do they have right now?
5 for 2023.
That's way too low for George Payton.
I mean, and that's where, like, if a team offered, say, we'll give you our 2nd rounder next year for pick 64. That was our podcast yesterday. I'd be like, fine.
Have them.
Easy. Yep. Instantly do that. Next one coming in from Denver Wolf says, if by some miracle both Trey McBride and Chad Muma were both on the board at pick 64 and you knew Troy Anderson and Isaiah Likely were both available at pick 75 as well, who would be your 2 picks?
Give me Trey and Troy.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to go Trey. Absolutely. And I'll go Troy as well. Yep.
We saw both Likely and McBride down at the Senior Bowl, and Likely was fine. McBride has some special traits to him.
Yeah, I likely don't
call.
Remember anything that he did.
Trey McBride is simply, in my opinion, a first-round talent. So if somehow he lands at the end of the 2nd round, you lucked yourself into a miracle. You take him because it's also kind of a position of need, and so it would fit perfectly.
Let me throw a wrench in the gears, though. At 64, Green Bay is calling, and they want to give you their 2nd next year. Trey McBride's on the board. What are you doing?
Trey McBride, because I view him as a first-round pick, and so I'm viewing that I can't get that. Now, if Trey McBride's gone, okay, yep, I'm taking that instantly.
I would say of all 4 of these players that you mentioned, I don't think any of them except Isaiah Likely will be on the board at 64.
Yeah, probably not. And I guess that's why he did say in a miracle way.
Maybe Muma, maybe.
Potentially.
We'll see. I think it's funny because we say like the cross-school comparison or the same school comparison is kind of lazy. So like the Logan Wilson, Chad Muma, like that's so easy. But I think it actually affects teams, and I actually think this one applies pretty well. But like I just, for whatever reason, there's a team that's played against Logan Wilson, like, that guy's awesome. And then they see Chad Muma on tape, they're like, hey, it kind of looks like him.
Yeah.
Wow, even the jersey, that's the same team. Same
and then
coach.
they can convince themselves that they would coach the same. Yeah.
Exactly. Last one here is from the Danimal. Morning, everyone. I actually have no football comments today. I'm just stopping by to give some love. Had an overnight stay in the hospital in Vail last night and couldn't sleep with all the machines hooked up to me. So I kept myself occupied listening to the soothing sounds of Zach and Mace. It made for some fun conversations when the nurse kept asking why I was laughing every time he came to check in on me. It was a fun night, all things considered. Thank you, guys. If anyone's around, I'll be stopping by the bar Friday night before I head back to LA. I'll be easy to spot with a new bionic shoulder and a service dog in tow. Come grab a drink with me. Much love, Danimal.
Oh, I hope you're okay, Danimal.
Yeah. Sounds like he's doing all right.
Yeah, it does sound like it. I'm really glad that we could be there with you in the hospital. And Mace, I wonder if he heard us when we were being very sweet sounds on the podcast.
Oh, you guys are giving maybe that's when you finally fell asleep.
All right.
We've been citing some lyrics this week.
I heard. I loved your Blues Traveler drop the other day.
Yeah, thank you.
That was good.
I didn't do too badly with it, I thought.
I'm sure you know this, but the best part of that song is that the entire song. Did you talk about this? The entire song doesn't actually say anything, and that's the point of the song.
Yes.
is that
Like the sentences don't make sense?
they do make sense, but what the whole song is saying is it doesn't matter what I say,
Yeah.
as long as I speak with inflection, because the hook brings you in. So like it's just catchy,
Yeah.
and the whole thing is just saying like nothing. The lyrics don't matter. It just
It's all
sounds
about
good.
the hook.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The hook will bring you back. On that you can rely.
Exactly. I love that. You guys been doing a great job holding it down, and I guess
thanks.
giving people sweet, soothing.
And I'm happy you're back today. And really quick, a note on tomorrow's podcast. Because of opening day and being down there, we are not going to be doing a live pod. So if you only tune in live, find us anywhere you find podcasts. Just search Broncos will be the first one that pops up. And you can check out tomorrow's pod, which is going to be audio only. You can find that on the podcast section.
Kind of like that. All of you YouTubers gotta subscribe to the pod. There
we go.
And this is like as close as we can get to giving everyone opening day off.
Can
yeah?
we come up with a cliffhanger then to get people to join us tomorrow if they're not
what are we talking about?
I don't know.
Good question.
We haven't figured that out yet.
It's going to be something so juicy.
A lot of people are saying it could be the podcast of the year.
Wow, and the juiciest one, too.
Yeah,
How
exactly.
about that?
All right, appreciate
Is
you.
that the hook that hooks them in?
That is.
That'll bring you back.
It doesn't matter what we say as long as we speak with inflection. All right, that's going to wrap it up for us. Hopefully we see you guys tomorrow downtown in Lodo, Ice House. We'll be there early, hanging out, slanging shirts, having drinks, all that good stuff. So if you're coming downtown, come see us. And if not, then catch us on the audio pod tomorrow. We'll see you then.